Recording in progress. All right. Well, we are going to begin. Everybody, I'm going to welcome you all to Chef Egg Live with the Charles County Health Department. Today, we're going to make a wonderfully healthy meal for the community to enjoy. We're going to make some chicken and vegetable stir fry with cauliflower rice. It's not actually cauliflower rice. It is riced cauliflower, technically speaking. But we're trying to increase the amount of vegetables that you have every single day. And removing some of the starches out and including more vegetables like cauliflower, I think is a great, great way to be, okay? And, you know, we think about switching out potatoes for sweet potatoes. They're more nutritious. They're lower in carbs. They've got more flavor as well. And then we can do that with cauliflower rice. And I know it's very fashionable, but it works and it tastes pretty good. If it didn't taste good, I wouldn't do it, okay? That is my rule right there. It's got to taste good. So for that, we have what's called our mise en place, and that means everything in its place, okay? So we've got cauliflower, we got broccoli, onions, celery, carrots. You might be wondering what the box grater is for. The box grater is going to actually shred up our cauliflower. And I find that to be a very, very easy way to make riced cauliflower. So I'm going to set that over here. Before we start, I am going to raise my glass. I've got ice cold water in this glass, and I'm going to drink it. So cheers to you all. Very, very good. So just going over our menu, we need onion, bell pepper, carrots, celery, broccoli. We've got some olive oil. We have some chicken over here. Where's my chicken? This is our chicken. It has been sliced thin. It is boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Use any kind of chicken you like, okay? Or use any kind of lean protein that you like. I'm all for it. You could use salmon. You could do some pork loin if you want. Just keep it as lean as possible, especially for this dish, okay? We have some, a little bit of ginger and garlic. We have some soy sauce, low sodium. We have some honey, a little bit of sesame. We've got some cornstarch and water, green onion, and then we've got some cauliflower for that cauliflower rice. All right, so what are we gonna do first? What shall we do first? Let's make some vegetables first, okay? And I like to do my vegetables first because what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of cook them over some high heat. We're gonna make sure the outside has a little bit of color, but the inside is gonna be nice and tender. So we'll be able to sit back here and not become mushy. After that, we'll make our chicken because the chicken can cook up, and then we can put that to the side. And then we can do our cauliflower rice, which cooks very, very quickly and should be served immediately. So this is the way I think about it. I think about it, you know, what can be done and set aside. And we do things in steps along the way. And really the best way to do this is to have recipes, which we'll send out to you, but also to make lists, okay? What takes the longest? What takes the shortest? You know, what's going to taste best at what time? But I always find a pen and a piece of paper is a great way just to jot down my ideas, get it out of my brain and onto paper. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put our skillet over here on some medium heat. And I just have a regular, it's a nonstick skillet. You can use cast iron, whatever you have. And we're going to start out with our carrots because our carrots are the toughest vegetable. So we've rinsed off our carrots. We're going to take our knife with control and support. And what's this called, everybody? What's it called? Y'all know what it's called.
Bear claw.
There's the bear claw, you got it. And the bear goes, grrr. When we hold our fingers like this, and remember, we're going to chop at a 45-degree angle. So my food and my knife are making the house in front of me. So we're going to chop down. I've got a little compost bowl back here, so we're going to fill that up. There we go. And now what I want to do is I want to chop my carrots about 1/4 inch thin, but we're going to chop them on a bias, okay? And I really like this bias cut because we can get some good, you see that? Nice, long, and thin, because what we're going to do is cook this so it gets color on both sides, okay? So the carrot cake's the longest to cook. We'll start that first. And I swear this was the first lesson I learned in cooking when I was in camp. I must have been in second grade or something, and the 4-H came and made a stir fry for us. Never told this story. Very interesting, right? The 4-H taught me how to cook. So we cut those on a bias, and we're going to pour just a small amount of oil. We have olive oil, but use whatever you got. Remember, we try to incorporate olive oil if we can, okay? Because it's good for our skin, it's good for our hair, good for our nails, especially when it's cold outside and we need those healthy lipids in our body to help lubricate everything, okay? Vegetable oil is not going to do that, okay? But olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil, those will. Unprocessed vegetable-based oils. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What's that? Somebody's calling. Somebody's calling on the phone. Let's stop it. There we go. All right. Sometimes that happens. Next up, we're going to toss these vegetables around. And we want to ensure that the vegetables are flat on our skillet. Let me just move this around a little bit. There we go. I got taken away. All right, I'm back. So we just want to take just a small spoon and make sure that the carrots are flat, that they're actually in contact with that skillet, and that they're getting the heat to cook, to brown, to caramelize, using this cooking technique to increase the flavor, okay? Next up, we have a little bit of celery, and I'm just going to chop off that rough bit of celery. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut this at an angle, just like that. We'll cut a little bit of celery, but in this stir fry, you can use anything that you like. That's the great thing about these stir fries. We did some chili in another class, and people were like, hey, can you put that in there? I said, throw it in there with rice and beans and grains and vegetables, whatever you got, because it's just the sauce that's going to make it taste really good. So if you like it, throw it in there. Throw a little bit of celery in here. All right, that looks wonderful. What's next? I say we do some of this broccoli. And I want to cut the broccoli kind of small because we do want the broccoli to cook. And really, the florets will cook fairly fast, but it's the bottom or the stem that takes a little time. So we can cut that stem a little bit smaller. And we can get the broccoli right in there. Just layer it up. Cut a couple florets off. And then we just try to cut these as thin as we possibly can so they don't fall apart. Put them right in there. We hear that sizzle. We hear sizzle, but we don't smell burning. And that's really the goal with this heat. We want to get a good sizzle in there without it burning, and medium heat is where that is at. If you're making some eggs in the morning or what have you, you really want that sizzle. All right, so let's move this to the side. All right, those carrots have cooked for a few minutes, so we're just going to give this a toss. We're really going to start to stir fry this. And if you can see this up close, we've got some browning on those carrots. It looks very, very nice. So we're going to continue with our cutting. I've got some onion over here. We're going to cut the top of this onion off and then the bottom. We're going to slice this right down the middle from the root to the flower. We're going to peel this onion up. And again, any kind of onion you got. If you have a red onion, a yellow onion, a white onion, a green onion, throw it in there. It's all good. You know the recipes we make are interchangeable to meet your needs, because if you don't want to eat it, you're not going to eat it. So I want you to put things in there that you do like. Now this onion has some lines right here. That's the grain of the onion. So we're going to cut some maybe 1/4-inch slices of onion just along that grain. And we're going to throw that right in there just like that. And you can see how easy this is. Normally, I would be chopping all of my vegetables before I start cooking. But this is so easy that I can do all of this right here, right in front of you. Kind of separate some of those onions. Sometimes they stick together, and that's all right. And we really want to get some good char on this. If we were If we had a big ring of fire and a big wok, we would be tossing this a whole lot. The heat would be much higher. We'd have more smoke and things of that nature. So if we're at home, we can cook using medium heat. Just let the food cook. Let it get brown, and maybe every 2 or 3 minutes, give it a toss. There we go. Let the steam evaporate. Let that steam evaporate, and then you're going to get some good browning in here. So this is looking really, really nice so far. Just let it cook. Next up, I've got some bell pepper. Today I've got yellow bell pepper. So let's slice it up and we'll throw it in there. I'll put that to the side. And you can chop this in a small dice. I'm just going to do some strips. I think that's cool for this. But you can do anything you like. Any cut you like, anything that is comfortable for you, any size that makes you happy. Any color of bell pepper that makes you happy too. So if you like green, red, yellow, orange, if you like a little jalapeno pepper in there, by all means, throw it in there. Now, sometimes you don't have fresh vegetables, and that's totally fine with me. Frozen vegetables, canned vegetables, toss it in. It's totally cool. Just add what you like. Is that good for you all? Give me a thumbs up if that's good for you all. And the goal here is to eat massive amounts of vegetables. So when we eat vegetables, we want to eat different colors of vegetables, different flavor. We want sweet vegetables. We want bitter vegetables. We want tangy vegetables. Onions got some astringency, but as you cook it, it becomes more sweet, okay? So different flavors, different colors, different textures. Thumbs up for me. Get things that are on sale. Throw a frozen product in here. Whatever you like is all good with me. So we're going to turn our heat up just a little bit. We're going to give this a toss. And I'm starting to see some really good color on here. Now, I want you to notice we haven't added any sauces to this, right? We're going to add sauce to our chicken. And what I like to do is I lay my rice down. I'll lay my sauteed vegetables or my stir-fried vegetables down. And then I will add my sauced vegetables on top and let that sauce just kind of mingle with everything. The worst thing you can do is have a stir-fry that's just filled with gloppy sauce. Have any of you all ever gotten Chinese food or anything and it's just all congealed sauce? And while the sauce is tasty, sometimes it's too much. And it's salt, it's sugar, and it's fat. That's what makes it taste good, okay? So we're going to give this a toss. And then we're going to scooch this over. Go around the corner up top. They want to watch TV. I got to let them watch some TV while I do the class. That's what you get. So we're going to let those vegetables cook. But the goal is to get them nice and crunchy, nice and not crunchy, nice and browned on the outside and still a little bit crunchy in the inside. That's going to give you that different flavor of texture, okay? Because you have a little raw onion and a little bit of sweet caramelized onion on the outside. Very, very good stuff. So we're just going to let this cook, okay? Now, the next thing I want to do is talk about our sauce, okay? Because we're going to make our chicken and we're going to cook that over here. But I just want to grab a small bowl. And we're just going to talk about our sauce for a moment. Because we're going to make a very simple kind of teriyaki sauce today. And that really has a very few ingredients to it. We have some low sodium soy sauce, okay? So we're going to pour that in there. Next up, we have some sesame oil, okay? This is a small bottle of sesame oil. It smells really good, like sesame seeds. It's very kind of quintessential Chinese food. I'm also going to take a little bit of this sesame oil and put it in our food over here. Now, this is an ingredient that while we can stir fry our vegetables and you hear that sizzle going on, really, really nice over here. The sesame oil is very, very potent with delicious flavor. And it's going to add flavor as well as giving us some more lubrication and browning to our food. So I think it's a great ingredient to add to this. Next up, we're going to add a little bit of honey. So I have about a tablespoon of honey in here. And people ask me all the time, can I add sugar, brown sugar? I was like, that's cool. All that stuff's fine. But for my recipes, I'm really trying to add things that are natural and unprocessed to the best of my ability, okay? And I find that honey does a fine job of balancing out all the flavors and adds the sweetness that I'm looking for. And that your body's going to enjoy digesting honey and processing it for fuel more than just, white sugar or brown sugar. Does that make sense to everybody? So a little bit of sugar is going to go a long way. I'm sorry, a little bit of this honey is going to go a long way over here. So we're just going to get that honey out. And if I add a tablespoon of this, it's going to be less than a teaspoon per serving, okay? So it's not a ton of sugar in this. So keep it natural and then limit it as best as you can. I'm going to take a little water and put it in here, because I find that even the low sodium soy sauce is too darn salty, okay? So I just kind of thin that out. We are going to thicken this with a little bit of cornstarch and water slurry. So I have about a teaspoon of cornstarch in here, and I'm going to add about a tablespoon of water to this. And we're just going to stir that up. This is a ingredient that's going to help to thicken our sauce at the end. It's not going to make it gloppy and gross. It's just a small amount. It's going to make it very glossy, okay? So we have our sauce mixed up. We have our cornstarch slurry made over here. We got these delicious vegetables that are just charring up very, very nicely. You see, I'm not touching the food. Who likes to touch your food? Give me a thumbs up if you're just touching and tossing and touching and tossing. Don't touch the food. Let it cook, okay? All of the ingredients in here, they're not becoming mushy right now. The more I put a spoon in here, the more they get mushed up. So I do like to do my saute method where I get my food to the bottom of the skillet like this, toss it up and back. This takes a little practice. How do you get good at this? I'll tell you. Grab some Cheerios, grab some cereal, whatever you got, dried beans, rice. Put maybe a half a cup in the bottom of your skillet, put it over the sink, right? Tilt it down, pop it up and back. The first couple times it's going to go in the sink. The last couple times it's going to stay in the skillet, and you're going to have a new skill that you have for the rest of your life. So please do give it a try. It's very, very simple and very, very easy to do. So at this point in time, I'm going to taste a carrot. Oh, and hot. But that tastes really good over there. All right. You guys like that? That was good, wasn't it? Raise our glasses one more time to you all. You need that water, especially, I know the landscape is covered with snow, but you need water because it's very dry outside, okay? You see it in your hands, right? So drink that water. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil over here. Okay. Just enough to cover the bottom of the skillet, a very thin layer. We don't want this to be oily. We just want to get good color on our food. That's the oil's job right there, is to give us a good crispy texture and caramelization and color. It's not for it to be oily. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yeah.
So, and I've done cooking demonstrations where people are very scared to cook with oil. They think, oh, oil, it's going to go against my diet. If we're using olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, it can be digested by our body and used for fuel or used in a different way. If you use a lot of vegetable oil, that stuff can get built up into your body and hard to expel. It's not used properly. So I just want you to see oil as a tool instead of something that instantly adds a lot of calories and fat to your food. Does that make sense? And a little bit, a tablespoon for a family of 4, it's not too bad, okay? So we have our chicken over here. It's just some diced up, not even diced, I cut it into little strips. But we want the chicken in a size that will cook very quickly. We also want it to have a lot of surface area so it browns, giving us more flavor, okay? So I'm gonna turn my heat up just a little bit. We're gonna dump our chicken out. There we go. So our chicken is cooking right now. Don't touch the chicken. Thumbs up. I know, off camera, she wants to touch the chicken. Don't do it, okay? Don't do it. Let the food cook. And if you have to back off the heat, if you think it's gonna burn, back off the heat a little bit. You know, it's at kind of medium high right now. But if it burns, just bring it back up to medium or bring it to a medium like this, okay? But you're just kind of floating here instead of going from here to here to here. Does that makes good thinking, right? All right, let that food cook, all right? I have a little bit of ginger powder because the store didn't have fresh ginger today, and I want ginger. So I'm gonna use some ginger powder. It'll work just fine. We're gonna chop up some garlic next. Pretty decent amount of garlic, I like that. And what's great about garlic, it adds so much flavor. It's very inexpensive, but I can use it for food all over the world. So Texas food, I'm sorry, not Texas food, Mexican food. Tex-Mex food is what I meant to say. You know, South American food from the islands, Asia, India, Africa, Europe. Everybody uses garlic. It's delicious. So we're going to smash this up. Give it a good smash. And then we're going to chop this up and we're going to add it to our chicken at the end of the cooking process because our garlic will burn if we add it now. All right? So wait till the end. We're still not touching that chicken. Let it cook. And this is a great lesson for any type of protein or pretty much anything you stick in the skillet. Let it cook. Now, we are going to see the chicken go from pink to white. And that is the process of coagulation. It is when you see an egg go from clear to white and you know it's being cooked. That is technically called coagulation. It's the change of protein structure by the addition of heat. So just let the food cook. You can tell when it's time to turn it. And we're going to wait until this is about 3/4 of the way cooked up its side to turn it, okay? Because we do want to get some good browning, some good caramelization. And now we're just going to chop up this garlic. Just like this. And then we're going to mince the garlic. And we'll do the same thing if we had fresh ginger. We're just going to take our knife and run it back and forth. And the price of garlic is about 65 cents for a whole bowl. So that's a lot of flavor for 65 cents. A chef, a good cook, is always looking to get value for your money. All right? So it's not necessary that you spend a ton of money, but nothing is going to beat fresh garlic if you want that garlic flavor, right? Nothing's going to beat a squeeze of lemon or lemon zest on your food. That only costs 50 cents, and it's the best of the best flavor that you can get. So just think about that, especially aromatics, fresh herbs. I just bought some chives for a demonstration tomorrow. And, you know, it was about $2 for some chives, but it's going to add excellent flavor to my dish. And for $2, I think that's a pretty good value. Does that make sense? All right, so my chicken looks pretty good. And I know it is looking real good because it's nice and brown. And I'm just going to turn it over. I'm going to allow it to cook on the other side, just break it up a little bit. And I'll say this again. If I had a big ring of fire and I had a big wok, I'd be tossing this all over the place and smoke would be going everywhere. But I'm cooking in my house, right? So I'm just going to let this cook in here. And we're going to do what we can do in the home to get a pretty good meal as well. But it's going to be a little bit different than if I was cooking in a large scale establishment or a restaurant. So when I cook this chicken, it has released a little bit of liquid. And that is causing me problems because it's taking away from my browning. So I'm going to take a piece of paper towel. I'm going to put it in my skillet, and then I'm going to soak up some of that liquid, which is just water right now. The chicken we get from the store is pretty water laden, I have to say. And that's how they cool the chicken. They cool it with water, so it does have a bit more moisture in there than I like. Now I can take this wet paper towel. I can put that in my compost or my trash. And anytime you have ground meat or chopped meat and there's too much fat in there, just take a paper towel and some tongs, wipe that fat up, and toss it. Every tablespoon of fat from that animal that's in there is like 15 grams of fat. And I'm using my olive oil as my fat source, not the fat that comes off or the drippings that come from the meat at this moment in time, especially when we're eating more in a healthful way. But especially if you're doing ground pork or ground beef, there's a lot of fat in there. Just take a paper towel, rub the bottom of the skillet, and then throw that paper towel away. Sound good? All right. Chicken's cooking. The minute I remove that liquid, I can hear more sizzle going on. So that's very, very positive. I'm just breaking up my chicken a little bit, getting some more browning on there. And this does look good. All right. So at this point in time, we're going to throw our garlic and some ginger in there. And again, you know, my bad for not having fresh ginger, but I think this is going to work just fine. It's just ground ginger. Use it for baking. I can use it for cooking. So we're going to toss this up. And instantly, we're going to start to smell that garlic. So that smells really good, but you do have to watch out for burning, all right? So what do? Cook that for a minute. We have our delicious sauce over here. We've got the low sodium soy sauce, a little water, some honey, and then we have that sesame oil. That's going to be very, very tasty. And then we'll give this one more toss. Nothing's burning so far. We're just getting some good browning. Good browning on that garlic in there. Chicken's looking really good. Definitely cooked through right now. And then we'll add our sauce. We're going to bring this up to a simmer, okay? Wipe our knife off. Clean up our area. If you chop garlic and chilies and ginger on your cutting board, make sure you wash it well because I cut apples for my kids. And they say, why does it taste like ginger and garlic? All right, so we're going to simmer this just for a moment. This looks really, really good. You want to cook the sauce maybe about a minute. And then to thicken that sauce up, remember we have our slurry over here. So this is cornstarch and water. And we'll throw that in there and cook it for 30 seconds. Once this comes to a boil, the cornstarch will expand, right? The carbohydrate expands, and that will thicken the sauce. Very similar to how gelatin works as well. The molecules expand in the liquid and make it more viscous or make it more thick, okay? So we're going to take this liquid slurry, pour it right in here. And it's not a lot. It's not meant to be thick. It's just meant to coat the chicken very nicely. I'm going to give that a toss. And I think it did its job. Instantly, I can see it thickening up nicely. And this looks beautiful. All right, I'm going to turn the heat off on this. we should taste this to see if it's any good. I'm pretty good, y'all. It's hot, but I'm pretty good. All right. Let's move this back here. We've got those vegetables over there. I'm going to take those vegetables and put them on a platter. I'm going to reuse this skillet. That does look pretty good. We'll just give this a little, there we go. And we're just going to wipe this out. All right. And now we're going to do our cauliflower rice or riced cauliflower. So again, we want medium heat in here. Let me wash my spoon off. And then we've got some cauliflower over here. So I think we're going to do half a head of cauliflower right now, just for the demonstration. And you can use the whole thing, barring the leaves. So what we do is we kind of chop off those leaves at the bottom, but you can do the core. So keep that core. And generally speaking, I would have cut those leaves off and tossed them in my stir fry. That would have been pretty tasty for me. What do we want to do now? Well, we're going to take this grater, and we're just going to grate up the cauliflower. And I've seen this done where you can throw this in a food processor. That works fine for me, but I find the grater works really good. It works great. Come on, guys, that was good. A little Monday evening humor. But yeah, you can do this food processor, hand grater, whatever you like. People chop it up by hand. Do that work if you want. So we just have basically shredded cauliflower. We're going to saute in a little bit of that olive oil, and then we're going to serve up our dish. So far I've been cooking for about, I would say, 35 minutes. And we're almost done. This doesn't take a long time. Now you do have to get all your stuff out. You've got to get your mise en place, your pots and your pans. But what I like to do is kind of think about, I'm at home during the day sometimes. So I just kind of like to think about what I may like to eat. Sometimes I'll make a meal plan. That's difficult to do from time to time. I do understand that, but I'll just start grabbing things out. Like I'll bring out chicken in the morning, maybe pop that in the fridge. I know I'll need this hand grater, so I'll take this out just to know where it is. There's nothing worse than trying to cook something and finding out you actually don't have the tool or the food to do it with. So something to think about, in the kitchen, as in life, proper preparation prevents poor performance. I see everybody going like this, so we know this. I have been on both ends of this. I have been wickedly prepared for life, and it's so easy, right? And I have been put in some situations where I am not prepared, and guess what? You're going to be prepared this way or that way. So do the best you can. Sometimes you gotta make it happen, and it's not always perfect. But you have to have, kind of that mindset of, if something weird happens, we can switch it up. We can make it work, and that is very, very good in the kitchen because just everything happens. I do a lot of off-premise catering and things of that nature, where if I don't bring it, I don't have it. And sometimes I didn't bring it, so I don't have it. And it's real important. So I've been in those situations. It's not fun. So I really do try to be as prepared as possible. But I want to show you this. This is our riced cauliflower. It's pretty, it looks like rice. It's like little snowflake cauliflower. It's pretty cool. So we're going to take the last of our oil. Again, it's just about a tablespoon of oil. If that, that's probably about a teaspoon of oil. And I'm going to cover the bottom of the skillet just enough so that when I add my food, it starts to sizzle and brown. So that looks really good. And this takes no time at all to cook. So we have our food ready to rock and roll. And then we do this last because once we do cook it, it can overcook very quickly. So we just want to make sure that the thing that's the most delicate and that can overcook the quickest is the thing we cook last, okay? So I'm, again, always cleaning up. We're gonna take a couple of these green onions. We'll chop that up for our garnish. We got some vegetables over here. Look at these vegetables. I mean, that looks lovely. Awesome. I didn't do it. It's just olive oil, a little skillet, a little thyme, a little patience. And then we're going to toss this up. You don't necessarily want color on here, but a little bit won't hurt. But it's so small, it cooks so quick. Very cool. And you just toss it up. The same thing is true if you've ever tried zoodles, zucchini noodles, zoodles. They cook very, very quickly, okay? There's a high water content in those vegetables. So you cook it very quickly, and you can eat it al dente where it's a little bit undercooked, still has a little bit of bite to it, okay? It's all good. I'll eat some raw zucchini, but I like it just mildly cooked. We're just tossing this around. We don't want this to become mush. This should have character like rice does, okay? When you bite into it, it should have a little bit of texture to it. So I'm just going to taste this right now because we've been cooking it for a minute, and I think we're good. I think it's good, y'all. Now I want you to notice the sauce is only on the chicken. So my food, when I pour it on, it's not going to be just loaded down. We said we don't like that. Very, very lightly covered. So we've got that little bit of chicken over here. We're going to move this off to the side. I'm going to bring this back up to heat over here and just taste for flavor. But that looks really, really good. It's just glazed chicken. It's not like heavily gloppy. Yuck. That does taste pretty good, everyone. I'd like to know before we serve this up, if you all have any questions about the cooking process. This was a nice, easy, quick recipe, but I just want to know if you have any questions, things that are stopping you from having the best cooking experience possible.
I have a question.
What's that?
I had struggle with flavor in my food because of stomach issues. So while I would like to use more onions, what is the onion that would give it good flavor but not upset someone's stomach in a general sense?
I'm not quite sure. I would say that's going to probably take some personal. It's going to take personal experimentation. Onions do have a thing. They can cause those stomach problems. But if you can, the best thing to do, and it's going to sound weird, but it's very easy, is to keep a food journal. I eat things I know I'm not supposed to eat. If I have too much pasta, too much rice, too much kind of carb loading like that, I know it. I know it's going to be a problem. So it's very important for you to understand what you can't enjoy and how you can enjoy it. So if raw onion's no good, but an onion powder is fine, I want you to experiment. And I hate to say it, you have to write it down and say, on this date, I ate this, and this is the way I felt. You might find that red onions in the fall, don't upset your stomach as much as other things. It's good for you to know those things. But I'm not sure what a good substitute would be at this point, just because I don't have that kind of medical background.
Okay.
Is that a good answer?
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other further questions? I'm about to eat this, y'all. My wife wants to eat it too. The kids, they had mac and cheese earlier, so they're not interested. But what are some more questions you have? You have me until all questions are answered.
Chef, you said something about maybe using canned vegetables if that's what you had.
Yeah.
Should you rinse those off? Because should you rinse that?
So that's a very, very, very good question. Canned vegetables, and beans as well generally have more salt on them.
Yeah.
So just watch out. I would prefer, instead of a canned vegetable, a frozen vegetable, because those aren't processed with salt. But canned vegetables, just like I would beans, I would rinse them and then let them sit in cold water to leach off some of that salt water, and you'll be good to go. But
Okay.
I have a 5-pound bag of frozen organic vegetables. It cost $8, and I got it from Costco. And when I don't have vegetables, we have frozen vegetables. The kids like it. I like it. I love frozen vegetables. So
Okay.
yeah, get a bag of frozen vegetables. I think it's good.
Okay.
What else do you have for me? Well, if you don't have much for me, what I'm going to do is take my little spoon over here and I'm going to serve this up. And I just want to show you, this plate is filled with vegetables right now. So we're only dealing with vegetables and a little bit of protein, okay? So besides the honey in here, this is virtually a carb-free meal, all right? And the small amount of honey for the whole bit isn't too bad. So you're eating a ton of vegetables. The more vegetables you eat, the better off you will be, barring if you can't have onions, because there are, well, and I make light of that, but I did a class one time. I used to work for Whole Foods Market. I'm just gonna chop up some green onions over here, and they were doing a class, and it was for the kidneys. And there were certain vegetables that would be very bad for your kidneys to process. So I was like, well, vegetables are great. And they're like, well, we can't have these batch of vegetables over here. And I was like, dark leafy greens. I was like, how do you live without dark leafy greens? And they're like, well, these people have to because they will have problems. So given that, I haven't run into too many diets or eating fads where vegetables are no good. But if they're out there, I'm not really for them, because I really think that your diet should have a lot of delicious vegetables in it. And whether it's cooked salads, with those green onions right on top, cooked vegetables or raw salads, in a smoothie, whatever you want, really, really important. Color, texture, flavor, different cooking techniques, raw and cooked, is all good with me. So before we close out, I'd like to know if we have any questions that I can answer for you, because I'm happy to. What you got? I know all kinds of stuff, everyone. All kinds of stuff. For real. Well, if we don't have further questions, I want to thank you all very much for joining. My name is Chef Egg, and it's my goal to give you all the skills you need to succeed in the kitchen. If you want to get in touch with me, my email is egg@chefegg.com. You can email me with a recipe if you want. Usually they will get that out a few days beforehand, but that did not happen this week. We will make sure that happens in the future. We're also recording these, and they're being kept in a vault at the health department if you guys want to check that out. But there's a lot of great programming. And in February, March, April, May, and June, so 5 months, we're going to start to roll out our hands-on cooking classes as well. So you all will be able to come join and actually cook with me. We're going to do a couple of cooking demonstrations first, and then we're going to do the rollout of hands-on cooking. And that'll be at various locations within the county, so we'll get that information to you. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Chef Egg. Yes, did you have a question?
Yeah, excuse me, Chef. Where can we get a copy of that recipe that you just did tonight?
I'm going to have Angela send them out, but if you just want to send me an email, I'll send it right to you. I'll send it out tomorrow morning. It's egg@chefegg.com.
Cool.
I'll send it to you. But I want to thank you all very much. Without you all coming to these, they won't happen, okay? So it's important. Tell your friends, tell your family. Everything is free, and we're having a blast doing it. And the goal is to get you all eating healthfully, have fun with the cooking process, and just enjoy trying new foods. So again, my name's Chef Egg. I hope you all have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Chef.
Yeah.